Hello Raptors fans and welcome to Raptors Report. Now that the streak has finally been snapped, today we're going to be going in-depth on the Toronto Raptors' franchise record-breaking 15 wins in a row, examining the opponents, the games, the moments, and the reaction throughout the NBA. Let's jump in. Following a frustrating loss to the San Antonio Spurs, where they squandered a double-digit lead they held for most of the game, the Toronto Raptors went on a winning streak that would make the rest of the league take notice, and break not only the franchise record, but also the Canadian Major League sports record for most wins in a row. Now, after finally succumbing to the Brooklyn Nets, the win streak sits at 15 games. But what were most of those games really like? Well, the thing about most win streaks is that they come versus weaker opponents, and this streak is no different. The combined winning percentage of the teams the Raptors faced over this period of time was around 40%. And the Raptors only played a couple of teams with records over 500, namely the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the 2 games versus the Pacers. With that said, this is still a very impressive accomplishment. One thing to keep in mind is that even if a team is favored over an opponent by a substantial margin, teams do not always convert on that advantage, as we just saw versus the Nets. And being able to do that 15 times in a row is extremely impressive. Another point is that the Raptors over this stretch managed to put away some close games, a characteristic that will help them out a lot in the playoffs. Lastly, they didn't only do it versus bad teams, they managed to beat some strong competition as well. And the reality is that any team in the NBA can beat any other on any night. And it's not like anyone could have predicted this kind of thing. Except this guy somehow. Now let's jump into the games themselves. The Raptors started their streak versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that narrowly defeated them a month earlier at home. This game was similar in that the Thunder managed to stage a late rally. The Raptors were ahead by close to double digits heading into the final minutes of the fourth quarter, but the Thunder managed to narrow the gap with a few big threes, and coupled with a number of Toronto miscues, they were able to get the lead down to 3. Thankfully for the Raptors, Pascal Siakam and especially Kyle Lowry came up with a few big plays down the stretch to seal the victory. The next game versus the Wizards was a complete whitewashing. The Raptors led for the entire game and set a franchise record for the most number of points in a game with 140, tying the franchise record they set the year before against, you guessed it, the Washington Wizards. This time they didn't even need overtime to do it.
Why, you little... I touch you! Stop!
He's already dead!
No! I gotta get it!
The next game versus the Timberwolves was also a pretty one-sided affair, as the Raptors led the whole game, with Lowry, Van Vliet, and Powell teaming up to take down the reeling Minnesota squad. The next win came against the Atlanta Hawks, and we were treated to Norman Powell absolutely going off. Starting early in the fourth quarter, Powell hit 3 consecutive threes to put the Raptors up 13, and then another a few plays later to put the Raptors up 16. It seemed as though the Raptors were going to completely run away with the game, but as we have now grown accustomed to, the Raptors managed to fritter away a 20-plus point advantage behind an incredibly impressive scoring performance from Atlanta star Trae Young. Trae Young used every trick in the book to get the Atlanta Hawks back within a single point of the reigning champions, with drives, three-point shots, and pinpoint passes. It took a very fortunate 3-point foul on Fred Van Vliet in the dying seconds of the game to put the Hawks away for good. Win number 5 of the streak happened in Toronto versus division and playoff rival the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers started the game off hot, leading by as much as 11 in the first half. The Raptors managed to put together a run in the third quarter behind the hot shooting of Fred Van Vliet. The Raptors ended the quarter up 4, and continued to pour it on, with Serge Ibaka managing to make a number of crucial offensive and defensive plays to stretch the lead. The 76ers put together one last push in the fourth quarter, with a couple of clutch threes to close the gap back to 4. However, the late-game heroics of Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet were too much for the Embiidless 76ers as the Raptors earned the W over their playoff foe. And here's another VanVleet 3 to seal the deal. The next game versus the Knicks was not the walkover that some expected, as the plucky Knicks squad played hard and kept it close for their new coach Mike Miller. They managed to narrow the gap to 3 on a number of occasions, which led to this extremely satisfying Siakam 3-point dagger with 21 seconds left to put the Knicks down for good.
This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, Tom Yamas.
And good evening, and we are coming back on the air with new details on the tragic death of NBA legend Kobe Bryant. ABC News confirming the 5-time NBA champion for the Los Angeles Lakers was among 5 people killed when a helicopter crashed and caught fire in Southern California. Authorities in Los Angeles County are holding a news conference now. Let's go to that.
The Raptors were the first game scheduled to play after the news of Kobe Bryant's tragic death, and both the Raptors and Spurs paid tribute to his passing by committing 24-second shot clock violations to honor number 24. As for the game itself, it played out similarly to the last game the two teams played, with the Raptors building a big lead early and then letting it slip away. The Spurs managed to stage a third-quarter run that eliminated the Raptors' lead completely, and in the fourth quarter, with a minute remaining, DeMar DeRozan again came up clutch and tied the game. Thankfully, Mr. Clutch himself, Fred VanVleet, put the Raptors up for good with a dagger 3-point shot in the waning minutes.
Good game, tough loss, who cares? Most importantly, appreciate you all letting the locker room be tonight. Everybody's pretty emotional about the tragedy with Kobe.
The following game was a rematch against the Atlanta Hawks, but unlike last game, it was only notable because Marc Gasol re-injured his hamstring in the third quarter. The Raptors led throughout. The win versus the Cleveland Cavaliers featured one of my favorite moments of the season, where Colin Sexton displayed this interesting defensive maneuver. Yeah, it didn't work. And surprise, surprise, the Raptors built up a big lead early in the game, and like clockwork, they gave it all back in the fourth. To credit the Cavaliers, they played with a lot of energy and toughness, and got the game to within 1 with 2.5 minutes to go in the game. The Raptors needed big shots from Serge Ibaka and Norman Powell to escape Cleveland with the W. Win number 10 was such a bloodbath, I will simply leave you with these Dwayne Casey gifs to give you an impression of what the game was like. Win number 11 was a delight, because not only did the Raptors match their own franchise record for wins in a row, we got to take a look at super rookie Terrence Davis go off for 31 points, as he made highlight reel layups and bombed 3 after 3 on the hapless Chicago Bulls. What really impressed me about Davis this game was his confidence and his ability to pull off Harden-esque step-back 3-point shots. It's a shame that he was snubbed for the Rising Stars game. He definitely should have made it. And now we get to examine a contender for Game of the Season, the first game in a home-and-home versus the Pacers. We join our heroes as they're down 10 with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, which is generally a very grim scenario for any team. After Siakam makes a layup to cut the lead to 8, the Raptors bust out the press. The Raptors began to employ their patented diamond and one full-court press, which immediately paid dividends. While it didn't cause a turnover, it ate into the Pacers' shot clock and they eventually committed a 24-second shot clock violation. The next possession, Siakam got into the teeth of the defense and kicked it out to Lowry, who knocked down the 3. They then jumped right back into their full-court press and forced a difficult pass up court to Miles Turner, which went out of bounds, and after review was Raptors' ball. Siakam again got right into the middle and was fouled by Sabonis. Then, you guessed it, back into the press. This time Siakam managed to steal the ball, charge into the paint, and lay it home, cutting the lead down to only 2. After the Pacers came up dry on the following possession, Serge Ibaka rose up and sank the game-winning three-point shot right in the mug of All-Star Domantas Sabonis. The Pacers had a chance to win the game on the following play, but the Raptors managed to hang on by the skin of their teeth and pull out the new franchise record 12th straight win in a thrilling last-second victory.
Round 2, fight.
2 days later, the Raptors and Pacers got right back into it, this time with the Raptors leading for most of the game. This time it was the Pacers who had to make up the difference, but Serge Ibaka gave them a very, very bad case of deja vu when he knocked down a 3 in the 4th to push the lead to 5. Following that shot, the Raptors proceeded to run away with the game, and Terrence Davis sealed the deal with a 3 and back-to-back dunks. Win number 14 came against the team that would eventually defeat the Raptors to end the streak, the Brooklyn Nets, and this game was thrilling and very close. The Raptors led for most of the game, but Nets center DeAndre Jordan and guard Caris LeVert were giving the Raptors a lot of problems. The game went back and forth, with Fred VanVleet providing much-needed offense to keep the Nets at bay. But the Nets behind Caris LeVert were not going away, as he managed to score clutch basket after clutch basket, culminating in a game-tying shot with half a minute to go in the 4th. On the following possession, Pascal Siakam was fouled by the Nets to put him at the line. Siakam only managed to make a single free throw, putting the Raptors into a precarious 1-point lead, and the Nets with the ball for the final possession. The ball went to Caris LeVert, but OG Anunoby gave us this defensive masterpiece, where he turned his back on LeVert, but still managed to stick to him like glue and force a contested air ball. The Raptors were still rolling. The 15th and final game of the Toronto Raptors win streak came against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Raptors were without Serge Ibaka for the evening, as he was recovering from an acute case of scarf poisoning, and his absence was noticed, as the Raptors had a very difficult time guarding the basket and were forced to play small ball for most of the evening. Newly acquired Timberwolves guard D'Angelo Russell was in top form versus the Raptors, as he drained a bunch of threes in the first half to keep pace with the blistering Raptors offense, which did not miss a shot until well into the first quarter. After the half, things started to settle down, with the Raptors slowly relearning how to play defense. The Timberwolves managed one final run at the beginning of the 4th, but Fred VanVleet and Patrick McCaw shut the door with a pair of threes late in the game to seal the final victory of the streak. The game that ended the streak with the Nets was a depressing affair, and going in depth would put a bit of a damper on what was a thrilling string of games for the Raptors, so perhaps I'll revisit it on another day. The streak itself will undoubtedly be one of the most exciting chapters of this already very impressive season, and as we enter the All-Star break, all Raptors fans should appreciate the dedication, hard work, and talent we've been able to witness every night the Raptors have suited up this season. This is a reminder that if you enjoyed this content, please like this video and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it also lets me know that you're interested in the things that I'm creating. Follow Raptors Report on Twitter for regular NBA and video updates. And finally, thank you for watching Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.